Hey there, my name is Alex, I am the Silver Mont, and this is a video about Monster Hunter World's beta. If you're a fan of Monster Hunter, then you're not going to get anything useful out of this video. See, I'm a beginner with Monster Hunter. I've no real experience with the series, other than a brief play on one of the 3DS games a few years back. But I thought I'd give my impressions of Monster Hunter World as a newcomer to the franchise who has played a lot of Dragon's Dogma and Souls, and in general I'm a big fan of action games, so there's somewhat of a shared audience here. So, what is Monster Hunter? The clue's in the name. It is a game wherein you hunt monsters. In Monster Hunter World, you start off by creating your character. In the beta, we were restricted to presets, but in the final game I expect there'll be a lot more options for customization. Once you've made your hunter and your cat companion, you accept missions to hunt various beasts, ranging in size and strength. Crafting plays a large role in Monster Hunter, and using the items you find in the world, and more importantly, the rare materials obtained from carving up your dead marks, you will be making new armor and weapons. You also have support items such as potions and traps to aid you in the hunt. Fundamentally, the game is very repetitive in that sense. I don't know exactly how the story works, but I know there is a story of some sort, and there's also multiplayer. I believe it's up to 4 players, at least that's what it was in the beta. But how does one hunt the monsters? Aside from traps and such that every hunter has, you'll be choosing from a primary weapon from a list of the following, and these are all of the weapons in the beta. I'm not sure if they'll be adding more in the final game, maybe as DLC or something, but we'll see there. For now though, we have the Greatsword, a huge two-handed weapon that dishes out the highest damage per swing. The Sword and Shield, which is, well, what you'd imagine. Then there's the Dual Blades, which allow you to power up and spin around like you're the world's biggest Attack on Titan fan. They seem like potentially the best weapons to me, but that's just my amateur's opinion. Then there's the Longsword, which is an extremely long sword. And one of my favourite weapons, the unique gimmick is that you can charge the blade up through various levels to enhance its power, and then you can spend some of that power on a special attack. Then there's a big ol' hammer, for you Havel the Rock and Silver Knight Lido fans. Next up we have the Hunting Horn, which is... you bash people with a really big trumpet, and you toot to give you and your friends buffs. I don't really understand it, to be honest. Then there's a lance, which is another that I'm keen on. It's good for prodding things. And if a lance is, well, too boring for you, there's also a gun lance, because why not? And next up comes the Switch Axe, which is a very cool transforming weapon. If you wanted, you could think of it like a trick weapon from Bloodborne, in that it has 2 forms, an axe and a sword. The sword of which has a system called files that can be used to unleash special attacks. It's a really cool weapon, but a bit too much for my beginner scrubness to understand. The charge blade is similar in that it transforms between a sword and a kind of guarded sword, accumulating power in more files which lead to big explosions. Finally, there's the Insect Glaive, which, like the 2 transforming weapons, is a bit complicated for me starting out. Effectively though, it's a very fluid polearm weapon that allows you to vault around and attack together with a large insect, or what do they call them, like kinsect. That does it for the melee weapons, but there's also 3 ranged weapons. A bow and 2 bow guns, of a light and heavy variety. The bow is, as you would expect, just, a bow. The bow guns are kind of a bit like rapid-fire crossbows, I suppose you could liken them to. You load all 3 of them up with special ammo types, and this leads nicely into my next topic, actually. When I played Monster Hunter 4, I think it was, on the 3DS, the controls were so awful that I just couldn't get into it. I didn't have a Circle Pad Pro, which probably would have made it a bit better. But playing on the PS4, yeah, the ranged and melee weapons all feel so much better. You can actually aim properly. But this isn't Dark Souls. The combat is closer to Dragon's Dogma in the sense that there's no lock-on. There is a stamina meter which is used up when sprinting, climbing, pulling your bow string back, blocking, stuff like that. Usually it's not expended when attacking, though there are some exceptions to that rule. The dual blades, for example, have a demon mode which constantly drains your stamina. Enemies do not have health bars, although you will get damage numbers in this iteration of the game. I believe you can turn them off though if that's gonna, ruin your immersion or whatever. You can judge a monster's health by how it's acting. As they get weaker they will start limping, they will run away to rest or to feed and such, and of course you can smash parts of their bodies off. This serves the dual purpose of weakening them and, well, actually it's more of a tri-purpose. It weakens them, it looks cool and it's fun to do, and also you can harvest their bits for your own usage. You can chop their tail off and then carve it up into crafting materials. Healing is done with potions and other items, and seems a lot more generous than the other game I played, but I don't know if that's just in the beta or not. But you did have an infinite use healing item. It was a sort of aerosol can that you stick in the ground and it sprays out healing stuff, and then it has like a cooldown of, I don't know, 2 minutes or something. If you do run out of health though, you're transported back to base camp, but if you faint too many times, I think it's 9 or something, the mission will be over. There's also time limits on most missions, at least in the beta. All 3 had a limit of 20 minutes. How about the enemies you'll be fighting? One thing I remember noting about the 3DS version I played was that Monster Hunter almost felt like a misleading title, in that the game should have been called Wyvern Hunter, because so many of the damn enemies seem to be wyverns, or dragons, or that sort of thing. It's not a huge complaint though. You'll be fighting a lot of dinosaur-looking enemies, along with wyverns, dragons. It's highly probable that's explained in the story why everything is so dragon-oriented, but I do remember wishing for a bit more variety. I remember a weird sort of gorilla enemy in the 3DS version. I don't know if that's going to be Monster Hunter World, but I do hope there are things like that, and not just 20 different types of wyvern and dragon to fight. As for new features, the 3 that spring to mind for me are scout flies that effectively are green flying things that lead you down paths. They show you where enemies are, they point things out for you. There's also mantles, which are cloak items with a large cooldown that give you beneficial effects. For example, there's a mantle when you put it on, it basically turns you into Havel the Rock for a short amount of time. It means you have like really big poise or hyper armor, you take less damage and so forth. I think it's even called something like Rock Steady Mantle, and I know I'm comparing everything to Dark Souls, but it's an easy comparison to make. Finally, I'm not 100% sure if it's new, but hunters now have a device on their arm that can be used to launch things, such as, rocks, poison knives, exploding things, and so forth. The game can be played solo, offline, online, and whilst joining a friend was a little clunky in the beta, you didn't just invite them, you needed to share a room password. You didn't make the password either, it would be assigned to you, and it would be like a series of numbers and letters. Hopefully that'll be streamlined in the finished game and you can just, invite your friend to join you. And the final product I believe is coming out on PS4, Xbox, and on PC. And there's going to be enhancements if you have an they call it Xbone X or PS4 Pro. I'll probably be getting it on PC. Why? Well, playing on PS4 Pro, you have 3 graphical options, and I imagine this is going to be similar for the Xbone X as well. You have prioritize graphics, frame rate, or resolution. Of course, I went with frame rate, but as you can probably tell from this video, the frame rate is far from consistent. If you're playing on Xbone or PS4, like the standard models, you're going to be getting a 30 FPS target. If you're on PS4 Pro, and you go into prioritize frame rate, it's aiming for 60, but it's more like 40, and it's all over the place. Again, it is important to note that this isn't the finished product, but if you're playing on a standard PS4 or Xbone, you're going to be looking at 30 FPS at best. It's playable, sure, but if the PC port is any good, and I believe this game is running on MP Framework, which is a nice engine, or at least it was, I think PC is going to be the way to go, to be honest. Higher frame rate, higher resolution, keyboard to communicate with in theory, it's appealing to me, and I want a locked 60 FPS for this sort of game. You might argue it's not totally important because you don't need so much frame timing, but it's an action game, and if I'm playing an action game, I want it to be 60 FPS or above, personally. Again, 30 FPS, sure, it can work, but if you have the option for 60 FPS, why not take it? Hopefully, they will iron out the performance issues on consoles by release, and hopefully the PC version is going to be a good port. I'm looking forwards to Monster Hunter World. I just hope the PC version isn't too far off. But what do you think? And would you like to see me cover the game more when it comes out? Would you like to see me stream it, or, I don't know, do a let's play, whatever? Because I had a lot of fun in the beta, playing with my friends, so it's going to be a pickup for me. Until next time though, you take care, goodbye.